concrete examples of innovations that we're funding where we're seeing solutions rolled out. So this one, and I'm not going to go through all the text on the slides, this was based on the Jamaica studies of child development. Are people familiar with the studies in Jamaica? So these were very well conducted trials, and I find them very interesting because they are actually the ones that have most shown the effect on violence of innovations like in the Jamaica program, home visitation, far out, 20 years out. And these have actually been shown to reduce gun violence. So it's actually not only the $100 billion of benefits, it's also the social factors of violence. And what these folks have done is they took all their materials, how to make toys cheaply and locally, how to do the home visitation program. And this was essentially a knowledge translation project. They put them all on a website and made them available to other country governments who wanted to implement similar home visitation projects, and partnered with the Inter-American Development Bank and launched this at the Inter-American Development Bank, which, as you know, has governments as customers. And this was launched last September, and we see early users like Zimbabwe, Guatemala, Brazil taking this up. So this is the idea of taking the materials in a randomized trial, the actual how-to, how do you make the toys, how do you do the visits, etc., of this home visitation program, this evidence-based program shown to work, and disseminated it globally to governments. Because what we know from our work in scaling is at the end of the day, workers on construction sites are lacking access to basic education, basic nutrition. So I visited one of these outside a large city in India, and you're kind of walking in, you get through this chain link fence, you're walking through these muddy paths, essentially it's a migrant camp. You see the building going up in the background, where normally the kids would have been up on the cranes with the parents. And you're walking through, and all of a sudden you get into the middle, and there's this bright, vibrant, fun-filled creche full of, well, the day I was there was about 100, 120 children there, from very young ages to a little bit older. And they're being stimulated, they're being nourished. So these are the most vulnerable children. These are children of migrant workers. And here is an innovation that, as you can see, is spreading to many sites. You see that under outcomes in India, spreading to many sites in terms of this innovation. It's incredible to watch these kids flourishing in the middle of this most impoverished migrant situation. And again, here's a situation where this NGO, Mobile Creches, is starting to negotiate with the builders to bring on resources from the construction industry, from the companies, to help support these creches. So it's an example of a social enterprise that is really tackling this problem for a particular segment of the population. Kangaroo Mother Care has been referenced several times today. We know that it saves lives. We also know that it saves brains from other work, including the work that I didn't exactly reference on the slide a few slides ago, showing that it's protective against for low birth weight children 20 years later. But we also know it hasn't scaled. And so, as Vishwajit, I think, was saying, the problem here is how to scale Kangaroo Mother Care. So in this case, we supported some original work from the Kangaroo Foundation in Colombia, where they conducted the randomized trial I referenced earlier. Let's just say they might have shown that it was protective in terms of low birth weight children 20 years later. We then supported them to go to Cameroon and Mali and essentially do all the operational work you need to get it going in clinics, and to be reaching out to mothers, and to be measuring the rates of Kangaroo Mother Care. And then, as a next layer, we worked with Circle Finance UK to develop a financial innovation called the Development Impact Bond, which was essentially a pay-on success model, where success includes putting up a rate of Kangaroo Mother Care, packaging things is finding its way into the country plan for Cameroon in the context of the Global Finance Facility for Every Woman, Every Child. This is a World Bank multi-billion-dollar financial facility that is there to finance country-led packages of maternal and newborn child health in the countries in the Global Finance Facility. So it's a good example of how an innovation will start with a trial, generate some knowledge, turn a little bit more operational, layer on a financial innovation, and then link it to a situation with significant resources to scale. And we've done some modeling with and without the law, as I shown on the slide, but you can actually model out that they'll save many more brains from getting much more tender mother care with the financial innovation. And then, of course, the question, these are all high risk. And of course, the question is, does it work? And that's the question that we answer by actually implementing it. If it works, I can scale tender mother care. We know itself, we know the intervention itself is effective. What we don't know is actually how to get it to scale. And I think the point that you were making earlier, this is also an issue of personal behavior. So, the financial incentives to the caregivers with women and then going to actually achieve this, is it more of a personal behavior? These are the elements that we need to check apart. But here you see a serious attempt to actually scale this innovation that saves lives and saves brains. Here's an example, and those were all what we call transition scale grants. Of course, I showed you we would have typically invested $1 million Canadian with another $1 million or so coming from the partners. So those are $2 million plus projects. Now I'm going to go through some scale projects, which are earlier projects. This one is in Peru, in a very poor municipality called Carballo, where approximately 4,000 children have developmental delays. And it's one of the poorest municipalities in Lima. The innovation is coaching to improve parenting behaviors and early learning for at-risk children by community health workers and individual centers and nutritional support. Typically, many of these innovations include a combination of responsive parenting and nutritional support, which, by the way, as a kind of reformed or retired physician, I just found it amazing when I started to look at the results from these trials that the responsive parenting actually has as far effect as nutritional support. So we start at this from a biological standpoint, and you're looking at signal to noise. You're really bowled over by the importance of the types of human family and interactions that we're talking about earlier, and how they're actually comparable strength to some of the more biologically oriented interventions like nutrition. Anyway, this scene showed a very significant signal of the innovation. And what this project is about is about integrating it into Peru's government program called UNAMAS. But a lot of the work, a lot of the theory of change here is fund an innovation, do it in a local region, show that it can work, collect the evidence, work with the domestic government that then uptakes that innovation into its program. Because scale is actually, when you get over the issue that you have to go from knowledge to action, that you've got some solutions. And then you've got some solutions, and you're collecting evidence on those solutions. The next fundamental problem you almost always run into is the problem of scale. And even worse than scale is the problem of sustainability. In other words, who's going to pay for that innovation once the last Canadian taxpayer dollar is spent? And early partnerships with domestic governments, or if appropriate, with private sector entities, are essentially the way to address that challenge. So here's an example in Peru. Here is an example. Somebody referred to this earlier. I think Gary referred to it earlier. He was the hashtag he to she person in the conference here. And by the way, just as an aside, I'm really proud that of all our innovations, we have 700 innovations, as Gary mentioned, 70 of them are transitioning to scale. We have venture capital approach, so 90% are seed, $100,000 to $200,000 of grant funding, and 10% are transitioning to scale with million, $2 million of grant or non-grant funding. I'm very proud to say that of that latter group of the 70 innovations, the transmission to scale, 50% of those are actually led by women. So the gender lens here really matters, and we're currently in the process of studying the differential effect of that leadership. But here's a he-to-she thing. Here's the Hanoi School of Public Health, which had the idea of if fathers played a more important role in creating safe, nurturing, and supportive environments, would that help child outcomes? And the innovation was a program to mobilize more fathers in parenting through multimedia messages, group health education, individual counseling, fathers clubs, etc., friendly competition. They found that in the intervention group, and these are preliminary findings, fathers were more supportive towards exclusive breastfeeding, and fathers had more positive attitudes and generally had a good effect on the breastfeeding. So here's an example. This is essentially 100% social innovation, but a social innovation that can be extremely important